Hello, my friends. Hopefully by now you are, one, all caught up on the Summerween content in your watch later list, and two, are maybe missing Summerween a little bit. Maybe it was such a fantastic week for books and content, and now you're starting to feel nostalgic about the week and you're ready to consume more Summerween content, because guess what? I'm doing it again for a second week. I don't really know how to justify this video. I feel like if all of my books went really poorly, like a lot of other people, I'm so sorry for you, then I could say like, I want to redeem my reading. I want to try again. But no, my reading was actually fantastic, and this video might ruin my entire perception of Summerween if it doesn't go well. But there's a lot of things that I wanted to read in the week. And not just that, but there are things that I feel like the universe wanted me to read. And also, I learned about so many interesting books from all of you. Videos and Instagram pictures and comments and so many things that sound interesting that I want to read. And the thing is, my entire August TBR and my entire September TBR are completely decided already. So if I don't fit all of these extra thrillers and horrors in right now, I'm not gonna be able to do it until October. And yeah, October is a great time to also read all these things, but there's also a whole bunch of new releases coming out in October that I'm gonna wanna prioritize. So anyway, this week is going to continue with thrills and chills. I'm not gonna announce my TBR rate at the beginning of the video because things are arriving in the mail and decisions are going to be made throughout the week. Because should I have a list of things I want to do again? One, I want to read one of the books that I had on my initial TBR that I just didn't get to. Two, I want to read something that I heard of for the first time during the week of Summerween. Third, I want to read something that was really popular during Summerween that I saw a lot of people enjoying and I felt a little FOMO about. Four, I want to read something off of my TBR that I've just been wanting to read for a while. Five, let's say another new release or something that I'm just about to buy or is just coming out now, because that'll still be fun. Oh, also number six though, I want to finish this because I completely forgot that I was reading it. I didn't even include it in my wrap up that I just filmed. At this point, I've read 4 of the 12 stories and I can continue to read 1 or 2 a day and complete it. That's the plan, and I already know what I'm gonna start out the week with because this was on my TBR and then I didn't prioritize it, but I should have. And that's the Paw Bears Club. I keep seeing this author everywhere. In fact, the day that I posted my brownies, he randomly posted an opinion piece on Instagram about how blondies are better than brownies, literally an hour after I made my brownies. And then obviously there was his like announcement about his movie adaptation on that day. And then my like favorite author was randomly also reading The Coven at the End of the World. And then in one of my vlogs I talked about how I feel like I'm in my vampire era and I didn't have any vampire books on my TBR. And then I got a couple comments saying, actually this is a little vampire-y, and I was shocked. And I can't imagine what it would be, but I'm so excited to read it. So I just picked it up. I thought it only came in hardcover, but the paperback was only like 25 bucks instead of 35, so that's a win. Everything in the universe wants me to read Paul Tremblay, so I'm gonna start here today. Sorry for the change of lighting. It's not gonna be good in here because I'm not willing to open my blinds today. It's 35 degrees and the window is hot, like burning to touch. And this room is gonna get way too hot, way too fast if I even attempt to let any light in. So I have a couple packages to open. I'm also finally finishing my pan of brownies. I have yet to decide if I'm gonna look back on the Summerween prompts and like try to complete them. These packages should be from that order that I made in that video last week where it was buy 3 get 1 free, if I'm correct. Ooh, I am. First one is Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Like I said, all my TBRs are already decided. That one is penciled in for September. This one is 2 of my favorite books of the year. They're so hot. We've got Out There by Kate Folk. I haven't been able to see what they look like underneath. Oh, that's fun because I originally read these as library copies. And then Woman Eating by Claire Coda. Ooh, pretty. I didn't know it was white underneath. Very excited to own these and have them on my bookshelves forever and ever. So there's my little book haul, and now on to Paw Bears Club. If you remember, this is the one that's set in like the 80s and it's following a guy whose name is Art Barbara. That's like his fake name for a memoir, which is what this is. And it's about friendship. He has a friend, this girl who's like too cool for him, and they become friends and they join they start the Paw Bears Club together, where they basically volunteer to be a part of funeral services for people who don't have much family or don't have any money. He wants it for like a cool thing on his college application, and she is being like weird about it, like taking photos of dead people. Like she's too into it, basically. I read the first chapter in this video, and then I just read a couple more just to make sure I really wanted to read it for this. And I really relate, not that I was alive in November 1988, but he's saying that he's sitting in his house watching MTV, hoping they're gonna play old Def Leppard videos and not pour some sugar on me for the billionth time. And I really feel that, and I feel that in real life, current day too, because Def Leppard's one of my favorite bands, and I always listen to the Hair Nation station, and I've really been appreciating lately how much variety they're giving us with Def Leppard, because back in the day it was just the same song over and over and over again, and it's like objectively a good song, obviously, but once you hear it 10,000 times, like, play anything else. So this is really fun because he's telling us his memoir, but then at the end of each chapter is like thoughts on his life and how he's interpreting his life from his friend. And she's basically critiquing his memoir and how he saw things. I have no idea where this story is gonna go, and I don't know if it being vampire-y is like a spoiler. It's definitely not in the synopsis, but it says like there are strange things and terrifying things that they encounter, and it does say it's supernatural. So obviously you know you're dealing with the dead and funerals, so like the paranormal can only be so many things. I feel like it's not going to be the type of vampire story where like they're suddenly being chased by vampires and they have to become like vampire hunters, but I think it's going to be vampire-y in a way that I really enjoy. At least I hope so. I'll check in with you soon. Let me tell you why this is for me. I read a Goodreads review that said the action doesn't really pick up until page 63, and I'm on page 59, and I love it. So even without any action or any plot, I'm on board. I think you could sum this one up by recognizing how much I love meta things. My favorite nonfiction books are books that critique other media. I often love books that have footnotes, and I also love mixed media, so interviews and articles and that type of stuff. So the fact that this book feels like really self-aware in that it feels like Paul Tremblay like wrote this story and then critiqued it himself. Like, that's just what's so fun for me. And this probably wasn't a good pick for Summerween itself because I don't think this is going to be horror, scary, chilling stuff. I think it's going to be lightly supernatural because right now he's interviewing his friend, and his friend is like pretending to be a vampire, but like, is she a vampire? And I don't think we're even, I just have this feeling that we're not even gonna know by the end if this is a real situation or if her like coming into his memoir and being like, this didn't really happen, I never really said I was a vampire, you took all of these things out of context, if it's her actually critiquing him and being like, you're unhinged, or if it's her trying to protect her identity as a vampire. And that shit's just so fun. I'm having fun. I love this book. Like, I love it. Love the little annotations. It's like every time he's saying something pretentious, she's like, this is a little much. He'll say things like to the audience, like, I know you might not believe me, or like, this is why you should believe me. I wouldn't make this up. If I was gonna make up this scene and the crazy thing that I just experienced, I would have made Mercy say this more villainous thing if I was trying to paint her as a villain, but obviously I'm not, and this is all real. And then Mercy's annotations will come in and be like, you're such a bastard. I wish somebody else was reading it right now so I could buddy read it and I could just like voice note geek out about the things that I just love about it. I'm glad I have you though, that I get to do that with. Just no spoilers. Oh, I'm also live with Katie and Steph on Katie's channel, so at least they get to know my enthusiasm for this book a little bit while I'm reading. Okay, I'm putting a pause on the Paw Bears Club because I'm trying to convince Katie to read it with me because I need somebody to talk about it with. So I actually just reread the first 100 pages again because I really love it. I think that it might be one of my favorite books of the year. Oh my god, she's doing it. She made it her name and everything. Oh my god. So I decided in the meantime to read another story from here, and it's Swim in the Blood of a Curious Dream by John F.D. Taff, who's the editor, and I gave it 5 stars. Imagine like no exit, like the snowy roadside situation, a bunch of people stuck and a child, but it gets weird and paranormal. Oh my god, that was so good. I have a quick update, no real review. I'm just in a hot car while Liam gets his skates molded to his feet. But I'm currently reading the Paw Bears Club still. I'm more than halfway through. I'm still really enjoying it. It's such a good time. And then I also started Slewfoot, which I'm probably 50 pages into, which is a book that I've had for a while, and I was considering reading it. I don't know if it was specifically for this readathon or like just sometime soon, and then I put it away in the closet because I was cleaning off my TBR shelf and I wanted like bright springy colors, and so I put all of my dark moody books away, and I forgot that I even wanted to read it. So I've just pulled it back out, and I saw a lot of people reading it throughout the readathon, especially people tagging like Katie and Jordaline for their influence on them reading it. It seemed to be going good for a lot of people, so I decided to pick that one up while I'm reading the Paw Bears Club with Katie. I'm also waiting for something to come in the mail and something to come from the library, but that's the update for now. Okay, I haven't filmed in a couple days. I'm so sorry. I also haven't washed my hair in a couple days, but I promise I'll fix that soon. So here's the update. I finished the Paw Bears Club and I gave it 5 stars. I am so close to calling it my favorite book of the year, but I don't think anything can really bump the 5th season, so this is my number 2 favorite book of the year. However, this is one of those books that I feel like I'm not going to recommend to that many people, and I really want people to know what it is going into it, but I also feel like I would struggle to explain it or have any real titles I would call comp titles. But I was thinking, not that these are the same plot at all, but if you enjoyed both Woman Eating and My Heart is a Chainsaw, I think that you can also enjoy this type of story. And like I said with So Happy For You, how it's more of a friendship story and go into it just expecting a contemporary story and then be excited about the little thrilling elements, that's how I feel about this. Like, this is just a contemporary friendship story with a little underlying weirdness. In my Goodreads review, I said that it's as if you're sitting in a theater watching like this slow, sad indie film about 2 best friends, and like the theater beside you or a couple theaters down, you hear a vampire movie playing through the walls. It's like there's a vampire story running in the background, but it's not a vampire story. It's just a beautiful friendship. It's about sacrifice. It's about a man trying to find meaning in life and his experiences. It's really slow and not a lot happens. Mercy is one of my favorite characters I have ever read in my life. Her annotations are hilarious and her commitment to her friendship is really beautiful. The end of this book made me tear up, and I don't know if that'll be a common experience, and the fact that I feel like we're gonna see this in the Goodreads horror category in the awards at the end of the year is horrifying to me. And not to spoil Katie's future, I don't know, vlog or wrap up or anything where she talks about that book, but suffice to say our buddy read did not go well for it as far as our equal enjoyment. But right now she's currently reading one of my favorite books that I recommended to her, The Echo Wife, and I'm currently reading one that she loved, Slewfoot. So hopefully these go well and we can redeem what just happened to our friendship. And I do think there's a high likelihood of me loving Slewfoot because right now I'm also listening to the audiobook because that's how it was recommended to me, just like I recommended the audiobook of The Echo Wife to Katie. I know I've gotten to the part where the pictures are, so I'm at least halfway through because I went through and I highlighted a couple things. Oh yeah, this moment. So Abatha is our main character. We're in like a puritanical society. I feel like I'm gonna say something really similar about this by the end that I did about this, The Year of the Witching being one of my favorite books, that it's the exact story you're expecting it to be. And I think that's sometimes a really fun thing as a reader, to not expect shocking twists and turns. Like the way that the synopsis lays out the book and the way that we exist in this oppressive society, and then we're following a main character who needs to break out of that, become in tune with her own like magic, and also maybe fall in love with a forest dwelling creature. Like, that's the story that we're gonna get. So right now everything that's happening is everything that I expected to happen, and I love Abatha as a character. So at the beginning of the book, she loses her husband, basically. I don't think I've ever read the full synopsis of this. Abatha is a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her village, and there's a demon devil named Slewfoot who's the only one that she can turn to. So at the beginning she loses her husband, and basically everyone in town, all of the men want to control her, and they're like, because you don't have a husband, we need to like find you a new husband. It's this person you don't actually want to be with. We're going to take your land. We're going to force you into this situation. She fights against that, and she strikes a deal regarding like her farm and how to pay back her debts and how to own her own life, essentially. And they're like, okay, whatever, like you're gonna fail, so we'll just humor you. But then she gets involved with this demon thing who helps her out. And the thing about this demon guy is he doesn't know that he's a demon. He essentially woke up out of this slumber and he has all these creature sidekicks, and they're like, you need to do this, here's who you are, here's who we are, here's your goal in life. And he doesn't know if he should believe them or believe the people who think he's a bad person. But he gets involved with Abatha and they just like help each other, and it's this really beautiful relationship, friendship. It had my favorite, like, I don't know if you call it a trope or just a phrase, where someone's like, what do you want out of life? And then the person tells them and they're like, that's not what you want, that's what you need. What do you want? Like, what are your dreams? What are your ambitions? And like, he's never made a deal like this before because he has no memory of his life. So he's like going through these motions in a really like cute way. It's very weird, my feelings towards this book, but he's like, oh yeah, okay, so I give you something and then you give me something in return. Like, he's learning how to just exist. I think the town is definitely going to come for her at some point, and whether she's going to save herself or he's going to save her, I don't even care. I think it's great. After these, I might actually pick up another vampire story. So I requested a couple things from the library. I'm going to stop in there. Thank you so much for all of your vampire recommendations. I don't even know how to slog through them at this point. I definitely got recommended a lot of things I've read before. Interview with a Vampire, Salem's Law, A Dowry of Blood. Some other things definitely popped up. And I was actually in a live show. I thought it was on my video, but it was in a live show when someone, thank you so much to that person who said the Paw Bears Club had vampire vibes. And during that live show, the chat was also filled with a lot of recommendations. And then Erin mentioned, have I read Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia? And I said I DNF'd it, and I was mistaking it for this other Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And I didn't know if I was going to read this author again because I didn't love Mexican Gothic. But then last year I did a Third Time's a Charm video and I read The Beautiful Ones, which I really loved. So I'm definitely down to read another thing from her, and I've reserved it from the library. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I also reserved, what's it called? A Certain Hunger, which I think it was Jan who recommended. I just did a live show during Summerween with a whole bunch of friends, and in that I asked people to recommend or just like talk about a favorite thriller or horror of the year so far, and that's one that she mentioned.
What's your favorite thriller horror of the year?
A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers.
Oh, I just bought that. We eating in. I love it.
You're reading from this 50-year-old in jail, and she tells you why she went to jail, but like you already know that she's a serial killer cannibal.
I just went to look it up on Goodreads, and the Audible like cover popped up, and it looks like a very different vibe. Like, that looks like literary fiction.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
That's why I've always kind of just passed it up in the bookstore. I had no idea that's what it was about.
So I reserved both of those, and we'll see which one comes in first. Hi, I'm back. It probably doesn't look like I've been anywhere. Don't look at my tags. I finished Slewfoot, and I feel so similarly, just like I thought about The Year of the Witching, that I finish it and I'm like, this is 5 stars. But like, it is kind of a basic story, and because it goes everywhere that you're expecting, I feel like weird about giving it 5 stars. I also just got a coffee and I realized how dark it is. I don't know what that is, but that's not my drink. It's still caffeine though, so I feel good. I need to caffeinate, so I'm ready to go to a movie tonight. Rob and I are going on a date. We're gonna go see Nope, and I'm so excited. And then after, we're gonna swim, and then after, I'm gonna wash my hair, I promise. I really like all of the conversations that had to do with religion and like colonizers and how they take different things like from legend, how everybody names things differently and how they steal different stories. I feel like there are some like uncomfortable references to them disliking indigenous people and using the word savage. And sadly, there's a little bit of animal harm in here, so just some things to look out for. I think this is just a beautiful book, and I'm really excited that I liked it. So when I display it on my bookshelves and I'm showing it off, it's actually a book that I loved. If you remember in my Summerween vlogs, I have a beautiful book that I didn't love, but I'm still gonna keep showing it off. So anyway, I got this called Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson, since we're in the witchy world. I got this called One's Company by Ashley Hudson, which I don't remember what it is at all. And then A Certain Hunger. So this is the vampire-y, or no, maybe it's not vampire-y, maybe it's cannibals, but like that's the same vibe, right? Food critic Dorothy Daniels loves what she does. Discerning, meticulous, and very, very smart, Dorothy's clear mastery of the culinary arts makes it likely that she could on any given night whip up a more inspired dish than any of the chefs she writes about. Dorothy loves sex as much as she loves food. But there's something different about Dorothy. This story shows us what happens when a woman finally embraces her superiority and introduces us to the food world's most charming psychopath. It reads like a dark, delicious feminist fairy tale, says Megan Abbott. You know, whatever this is, it reminds me of the cover of this. And therefore, I want to read it. And then I have 2 packages. Oh, my battery light's flashing at me. How do I always end up here? Maybe I should open this in another clip because I'm excited about it and I'm going to be reading it. Actually, maybe this is what I'll read today because it's short and I've already read like a whole book. And look how tiny it is. This is 3 Days in the Pink Tower by Evie Knight. And I originally saw this here from Marcy. I don't think I paid attention to what she thought of it or if she even read it, but this is the first time that I've ever seen it. And I immediately picked it up because short horror is what I want. And then this, I have a package from Tor that I am not anticipating anything. So it could be anything. Oh, it's okay. Oh, hey! It's Little Eve by Katrina Ward, which is funny because this is sitting at my local Value Village. I've been seeing it there for months. I'm assuming this is like a republished book, because I think it had a different cover, but I keep seeing it there and I'm like, do I want to read another Katrina Ward? And now look, here it is without having to buy it. Ooh, this is set off the coast of Scotland, where a clan prepares to bring about the end of the world and its imminent rebirth. Okay, I'll check in with you when I know what I'm reading, or I've completely finished this, or I'm at the movie theater, or I'm swimming. But I'll see you. I will see you. So I ended up just reading the first 2 chapters of this because I was listening to the first couple chapters of the other certain book, this one, because when I realized this wasn't vampire-y, I thought, let me like make sure I try the vampire-y one, and I didn't really like it. So now I have in fact DNF'd it, which is what I said I did a week ago. I was gonna say like it's urban fantasy and I wasn't loving the vibes, but like obviously it's urban fantasy because it has to do with vampires. But I think my type of vampire book is just a little bit different and I don't really know how to explain it. It's got like some crime and I think detective upcoming vibes. I actually listened to the first like maybe 2 hours to give it a good go, and I just felt like it was a little clunky introducing the characters. It reminded me a bit of whatever this is called. This is just the book that was coming to mind. So then I read the first couple chapters of this, and it's interesting because we are talking about like the history of diagnoses for psychopaths and women murderers in history, and the hesitance of like health professionals to talk about women psychopaths. But then also we're getting very graphic depictions of sexual organs and just sexual content in general, and it's going to be interesting being in her head reading what she's up to with these people she's gonna kill. I feel like the last time I remember us going to the movies, it was Us, the movie. I can't remember going to the movie since then, and that was like 2 years ago.
I've gone to play them lots.
I know. Have we gone to the movies? I could look back on every vlog and find it because I feel like we have, but I can't think of what it was.
I mean, actually, I can check my app.
And we think we liked Us.
Yeah, I liked Us.
I liked Us more than Get Out, I think. It's nice that this is the 3rd time we're going to the movies together to see one of his movies.
Profile?
We were here like 6 months ago seeing something.
Did you see Dr.
Oh, Little Women.
That's the last one we've seen for sure. I have Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home, Eternals, My Hero Academia, Shang-Chi, Free Guy, Space Jam, Fastest 9, My Hero Academia, Spider-Man, Far From Home, Detective Pikachu, Infinity Gauntlet, Captain Marvel, Aquaman, The Hate You Give, Love Simon, but that was years ago.
Yeah, Little Women would be on there. We also saw something else together, but I can't think of what it was. This is fun because we don't know what this movie's about. So when we come back, we'll give you our rating. Okay?
Yeah.
Is very distinctive about this film. We have so many ships, space bases, robots, armor, weapons.
There you are.
We're out of the movie. I give it a 4 out of 5. How about you?
What did I watch?
It's really weird.
I liked the movie. I didn't like... Is this spoiler free?
Of course it's spoiler free.
Oh, then there was... Yeah, I didn't like something's design.
Oh, I thought it was great. On our way home. The vibes are vibing. Liam and I are on our hot girl walk. I don't want to be here. He doesn't want to be here. It's 7 a.m. This is the only time it's not too hot to go on our hot girl walk. Okay, today is all about a certain hunger. And maybe I'll start the day with the pink tower, just because I'm very interested in what it is. And then I can tell you what it is. And then we all know what it is. I recollected all the times I would take Andrew fresh from the shower, bend him over a pillow, and plant my mouth on his rectum with a wet, open-lipped kiss. Rich, well-bred men have the best hygiene. Eat the rich, they say. And in this, they are not wrong. Hi, it's 12 hours later, and I finished the book. I haven't updated you all day. Oh God. I didn't update you because like I didn't like it. At no point was I having a good time. And you might be wondering to yourself, then why'd you keep reading? I don't know. I think it's because I have 3 other books on this TBR and they're all physical. Like they don't have audiobooks, I don't think. So I was just like not in the mood to read physically today. I was just like editing and working, and picked up my dad today, posted a video, and I was just listening to the audiobook like as I went throughout the day, not feeling super committed to the story, but like now I've finished a book and I'm giving it 2 stars when I could have just DNF'd it and should have DNF'd it, but whatever. The audiobook itself, high ratings because the narrator was fine, did a great job. The book itself, good lord, it's so tough because I feel like anything that I say about why I didn't like this, you could apply to books that I love and even books that I've read in this video. So like, I was waiting for something to happen. I got so tired of just reading about her being like, jail is boring. I have shitty food in jail. Let me literally hallucinate about all of the food that I've eaten in my lifetime that was so delicious. She's like a food blogger, was a food critic, and then she decided to start murdering people, and she like just really appreciates also eating organs occasionally. But most of the book is just like about her travel journey in life. It's like, it's as if you're reading a memoir, and she's reminiscing on all the decisions she's made in her life, including killing people and how she ended up in prison, but mostly just like all the food that she's eaten and all the times she like went to Italy and had this amazing cheese and had this amazing sex. I would say this is a mix between like Tender as the Flesh, They Never Learn, Manhunt, and The Mars Room. So like 2 books I did not like and 2 books I liked. I do understand why some people like this. It's very like good for her vibes, I guess. If you just like love the perspective of this woman who's like, women can be serial killers too, even though there's no like revenge plot of really why she wants to kill everybody. Like I kind of get it. Really hate her beyond just like hating her because she's killing people and is a psychopath. It's also just like super obnoxious. All of her opinions about everybody is just really exhausting to read. Between like the people she judges at first glance, the racial stereotyping, I would have been more fine with it if it was fun. Like if it was fun and cheeky, I could get on board, but I just feel like it took itself so seriously. I do get the things that it was saying because it laid them out very clearly. There's like paragraphs and paragraphs that are like, see, women don't just have to be housewives. Society romanticizes having children and like perfect wives, but like I can kill people. Society's so obsessed with women's goodness and purity, but watch me subvert it. It was just a lot to read. Didn't do anything objectively wrong in regards to like the vulgarity of it all. I get it. It's for the shock value. But the constant repetitive descriptions of everything for no other goal than to shock the reader and like show how many euphemisms there are for vaginas. Like, I just, too much for me. Nothing I was interested in. Anyway, I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Hi, me again. Let's talk about where we've been and where we're going. The Paw Bears Club counts as something that I had on my original TBR, and then Slewfoot counts as the Summerween favorite. A Certain Hunger we could count as a new release. 2020. Maybe we could count The Wife Before, because this was on my TBR too, but this is a newer release, so maybe I read this for nothing. Let's forget it ever happened. Okay, deal. And then I've selected from my TBR Tell Me I'm Worthless, because I meant to read this in spring, forgot, and now summer is like almost over. I know it's not really almost over, but my August TBR is so solidified. And then 3 Days in the Pink Tower for something I heard about during Summerween, which I read the intro of this morning, and this is based on a true story, like that something that happened to this author, like a traumatic experience she went through, and she decided to take it and make it into a powerful book. But I've started The Wife Before. That's what I want to tell you about, and it's interesting. I don't think this one's gonna work for a lot of people, based on when I read thrillers where the main character is acting like an idiot, and then everyone's like, I hated this book because the main character is an idiot. Like, this gives me those vibes that I feel like other people would say that. I think she's doing what she needs to do, and I think that everybody makes different decisions in life, and you can't always understand where someone's coming from. I'm sorry, it's just like so ridiculous, the red flags that this man is bringing to the relationship, and that she's like constantly acknowledging, but then she's like, I just need a place to live and I don't really care. She is a self-confessed like lazy person. She doesn't want to get a job. She's like living in this apartment, and the book opens with her roommate being like, okay, you need to like pay rent. She's like, oh my god, again. Other people are paying for her lifestyle. She grew up with a mother who worked a lot and worked too much, in her opinion. So she just doesn't want to have a life like that, where her existence is based on how much income she can make. And I think that's fine and that's relatable. But also like expecting other people to support her lifestyle is where I'm struggling. But I don't necessarily think that you're supposed to connect with that portion of her personality. I think it's just giving a reason why she gets into the situation that she is. So she meets this man who's like rich and famous, and he's like, oh, I've never met a woman who like didn't know who I was. He's like this sports star, which I didn't know. I didn't know it was like celebrity status. But so he immediately sweeps her off her feet. He's like, I'm gonna support your whole lifestyle. Like, when you're with me, you don't have to worry about anything. Moves her into the middle of nowhere, into this mansion. And along the way, she's like, this isn't the best decision. And like, she wants to have passion for things. She wants to have hobbies. She wants to care about like getting a job, but she just doesn't. She's late to everything. She doesn't care about other people. She's just doing her own thing. And when she moves into this place, she finds journals from his ex-wife. So originally I read the first chapter in the try a chapter tag that I did for Summerween, and I was like, oh, the narrator really changed voices from the first chapter to the second chapter. And I thought that was like, I thought it was the same woman both times, and it was just like before she got into a toxic marriage and then during the toxic marriage, and like she was just really, you know, exhausted and beaten down, and so the narrator was giving that effect. But no, Kayla, it's two different women. The prologue was from the journal entries, and we know that because like it even says her name in it, Melanie. I just didn't connect the dots. And then the first chapter, the actual first chapter, is from Samira. I'm halfway through it now. It's getting a little ridiculous, like the journal entries that I'm starting to question. I'm not going to confirm this by the end, so don't worry, it's not a spoiler. I have a theory that like the journal entries aren't real, or somebody else wrote them, just because of the topics and the way that they're written. And she is reading them and she's going, well, maybe she was writing these as like a memoir, because they're very detailed and very dialogue heavy, and just not the way that journals are written. So I'm just starting to question the journal itself. And I think no matter what the reveal is, if there is one regarding these journal entries, I'd be cool with it, because I think it's interesting. But Shonora Williams previously wrote, I think, a bunch of like romantic thrillers, or like, oh, I don't know if they're thrillers, but like this is stuff that she's written before, and now she's written a couple thrillers, and you can see where the inspiration for this journal and the way that certain things are written, like things have been inspired by what she's written before. And I'm not necessarily enjoying that aspect of it. And I don't know if it's written in a way that you're supposed to be like, ah, stop it, or if you're supposed to understand where the other woman's coming from. At this point, both women, yikes. It's the end of the night. You can clearly tell that. And I finished the book. And it was a time. It was a time. This is like the most easy to rate book ever. It's a 3.5. It's the perfect example of a 3.5. I know for a fact there are people out there that'll give this 5 stars. I know for a fact there are people out there who would give this 1 star. The plot kept me interested the entire time. I feel like it was an interesting mystery to follow. I read someone in their review say that the breadcrumbs were more like flashing lights, which I agree with. But I was still having a good time, and it was interesting learning everything that was revealed, even if I wouldn't refer to them as like big twists. The characters were rough to read. The writing itself was a little bit rough, but it was a good time. It was one of those books that relies a lot on like suspension of disbelief and characters coming across things too easily. Like every plot point was a little bit too easy, and a lot of things just got explained away. Like we didn't get a lot of reasoning behind things. It was just like, well, this is just happening because this and this, this and this. Even though like 20 pages ago you said something a little bit different, like it's okay because this is what I want to say now. There's not too many characters. There's like the woman, the man that she married, his ex-wife or his dead wife. His wife had a sister, and he has like a cousin, and his wife, Samira, our main character, has a brother, and those are all the moving pieces in this story. And I know a lot of my friends are talking about right now how publishing seems to be really prioritizing, like if you're picking up a book by an author of color, it's very much focused on their race, and like the thrilling or mystery traumatic parts of it are rooted in racism, which, like, not to say that's not a thing that should be a story that's important and should be told and should be included in books. Not to make it sound like that's a new thing either, like Black trauma being the focus of a lot of stories. But if you're looking for a book by a Black author and the trauma that still exists in here, obviously, but isn't rooted in racism, rather the things that happen to the people in the story aren't due to racism. Anyway, my kid is in bed now. My husband is playing video games, so I think I'm gonna run through the Pink Tower book, because what else am I to do at 10 at night? Sleep? Never. Hello, it's the second last day of the month. It's a hot one out there. Someone tell me if they think it's a good idea for me to go to Walmart and get a giant new floaty, and then we'll spend a whole day on the river this weekend, or if I should just stay inside because it's gonna be 40 degrees. Oh gosh, it's like 105 for you others. I did finish this last night. I don't really know how to coherently express my thoughts on it. So what I'll say is I have no doubt that this was a cathartic experience for the author, a necessary part of her healing process, and that revisiting like the worst thing that's ever happened to you, even if it was 30 years ago, is no doubt like reliving a trauma, and it's really brave of someone to talk that through and let the public in on that experience. Due to all of that, I don't even feel it necessary or appropriate to assign a rating or a review, but reading essentially 100 pages of first-person assault and R wording, that YouTube will ban me for saying that word, but like very detailed and graphic long scenes of trauma. It's not a reading experience that I would feel comfortable just recommending to anybody in any capacity, even alongside a list of content warnings. So it was a reading experience. It happened. It's not quite what I was expecting. I thought it would be more metaphorical, supernatural. It's no doubt a horrific experience. Very, very raw and real. And you probably won't hear me talk about this book again. Then I have the book that I want to read today, which is Tell Me I'm Worthless, which is like a haunted house story, but I think kind of a literary vibe. And again, as I probably have been saying all week, like it's the heat peak of the day and I will be in here in my air conditioning, which thankfully has not died on me yet this summer. And I'll just be reading this. It really is just my day for reading uncomfortable topics. I'm about halfway through Tell Me I'm Worthless and I'm reading it very slowly throughout the day. It's almost midnight, so clearly I'm taking my time. I just have to put it down a lot. I think I'll finish it tomorrow, but in the meantime I've been reading some short stories from here. I actually only have 2 left in there, but this is it's about, I don't know, it's about like a haunted house, I think. Some of the chapter titles and like the perspective you're reading is about the house, like the house is its own character, which is interesting. But mainly we're from these 2 perspectives, Ela and Alice. And they were best friends with this girl named Hannah, and I'm wondering if we're gonna get a perspective from her later because we don't know where the heck she is. But all 3 of them were like best friends. They went to this house together, like broke into this abandoned house, and they haven't seen Hannah since, whatever that means. The house itself is like some weird entity. The chapters about the house are written in like second person, so it's like your thoughts on the house, which is very odd. Like, I like the choice because I love second person and I love weird perspectives, but just like the topics, I don't know. Something really bad happened in the house and I don't think we know what that is. We're being told what it is, but I don't think it's the truth, and I don't think we're supposed to think it's the truth, because Ela and Alice current day, we're in the future, they're not friends, they do not interact at all. Alice is a trans woman and Ela is a major TERF, and we get a little insight into that during their like original friendship story. But I think we're to think that a big catalyst for her hating trans women is that Alice did something awful to her in the house. But from Alice's perspective, she's talking about how Ela did something to her in the house. But I think the whole thing is that the house like makes you, I don't know, hallucinate, or it like puts thoughts and memories into your head that aren't real. I can't really tell at this point what's really going on. It's definitely successful in its horror because it's making me very on edge and uncomfortable, not in like not in the scares of the house, but yes, in the scares of the house, because like one chapter we were reading about a pedophile, so it's a rough go. Sorry I lost you last night. My camera memory card was full and I didn't feel like clearing it off just to vlog for like 30 more seconds and update you. I have now finished Tell Me I'm Worthless and it went okay. I'm giving it 3 stars, that's my first instinct, but I just finished it and now we're headed out for a beach day with some friends, so I'm just gonna ponder my thoughts and my like review of this. And then I have 2 stories left in here and I think like I'll read them while we're out. There'll be a little bit of time that I can read, that I'll want to read, even though I'm really regretting even leaving the house already. Slathered myself in sunscreen. I'm regretting even just having hair, being alive, just a little bit. The boys are just getting smoothies. If you're wondering, you can see that's Booster Juice. How thrilling. I read the story by Usman T. Malik and I really did not like it and gave it 2 stars. It was about ghosts and pregnancy and a beast. And then I read these so out of order. And then I read The Sanguintalist by Gemma Files. And I gave that 2 stars, really didn't like it. It was about like necromancers and cannibals, but the main character's name was Lala, so that was really beautiful. I'm sad to be leaving the week and the vlog with not a great one. That was just like I'm in the middle one, so hopefully the last 2 stories I read in here are fantastic and I can end the vlog on just a high. Thank you. Delicious.
I traded the guava for orange juice so you don't die.
It is very orangey. I love it. I don't know if I'll feel like taking clips at the beach, but if I do, then you'll see them next.
I don't know where our kid is. Oh, no, here he is, facing away from us, straight ahead of me.
gosh. I think I went a little too hard in the water yesterday. My bathing suit was just really pulling into my skin. Okay, let me try to talk about Tell Me I'm Worthless. This book gives a lot of its energy and time, and therefore the reader's time, to hate. There's a lot of just dense transphobia and racism and anti-Semitism and just anger to get through, to appreciate the message. The message is clear. I think that that's well done. And since it's horror, like, it makes sense that the book is rooted in trauma and anger. But I think that anybody would have a hard time saying that they had a good time, that they enjoyed reading this book, because there's just a lot to wade through. And it's not just a book about combating that hate, it's really exploring that hate for hundreds of pages. It's like reading the most sick, hate-filled, racist, like full of slurs and sick fantasies 4chan post. Reading through all of it just to get to the comment section to find people that agree with you that, like, the OP sucks. So with that, the book accomplishes its goal. So I have to give it props for doing exactly what it set out to do. What I did enjoy is there's some interesting narrative choices in here. Like I said, the house is like its own character. There's sections about you. And then there's this one really interesting part where there are two different narratives going on at the same time. So you kind of like read multiple pages and then go back and read the other section. And it's super interesting and compelling, super unique, but also shocking and brutal. It's full of a lot of self-hatred and it's hard to read. And then I think the reason that I'm not giving it high ratings is I don't know that I ever fully felt like I was in the story. Besides the haunted house sections themselves, the rest of the book, it didn't feel like the characters were authentic to the story. And by that I mean there are a lot of perspectives and opinions that I think that the characters were set up to be, but they didn't share opinions on certain things that I think that these people would share opinions about. And it was more so like the author's opinions took the focus, which like makes sense because the author's trying to tell a certain story. But like, I don't know, an example, like our main character is a sex worker, and I think that the book towed a really interesting line between talking about empowerment and exploitation of sex work. But then that opinion was never in the pages, and that didn't feel authentic to the characters. It was also super hard to read those sections where she's doing things and saying things to people because it's her job, that she doesn't want to do, but she understands that it's a part of her job. And I just feel like there were so many conversations that could have been had alongside that, and that these characters existing in real life would have had. You know, her friend would have had opinions on that. But I think it stayed neutral on a lot of topics that I didn't expect it to, or just didn't share opinions. And it might sound like that's like a silly critique if you haven't read the book, but the book is full of so many opinions. Like, it's just paragraphs and paragraphs of people's opinions on every single thing, how much they hate this and support that. And that's just one example of like 4 or 5 things that I was waiting for like a conversation to arise about, and then it didn't. And maybe it just didn't have the page time, but then the page time was spent in like some other places that just didn't feel authentic to me, following these characters and their relationships and what they've been through. With that said, I don't think that that's a popular opinion. I've only seen 5 stars and 1-star reviews for this book. People either hate it and are being hateful of it, or they think it's the most incredible like think piece they've ever read. But for me, I respect the story. I just didn't feel like I was really in a genuine story. And then for dark stars, the last 2 stories that I read, I gave one a super high rating. A Life in Nightmares by Ramsey Campbell. I gave a 4.5, and it was about like, I don't know, dreams and interpreting reality, let's say. And then I read Papa Eye by Priya Sharma, and I gave that 3 stars. It was definitely the least horror in here. I think you'd call it like folk horror. And it's just a story of like life and death. A little simple. And I think if you take all of my ratings in here, it would average out to like probably a 3.5. But the authors that I will read from again, that I read for the first time in here, are Ramsey Campbell, Chesia Burke, Alma Katsu for sure. I think hers was my favorite in here. John F.D. Taft. And those were my standouts. So if you would recommend any books from them specifically, or maybe they're only short story writers and I'll have to look into other anthologies to find more from them, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this week. I feel like it started off really, really well and then went downhill a little bit, but I still read some things I really have been wanting to read and I got a lot accomplished. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.